Hey there, it's Seb Fry the Realtor here, and in this video I'm going to address the question which I know so many of you are asking, and that is 2022 just like 2008 all over again? Are we headed now for another gigantic real estate crash here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area? If you're wondering about that, then you need to watch this video. Alright, well before I get into all that, would you do me a favor? Would you mash that subscribe button right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget to click the little bell to make sure you get a notification every time I put up a fun, new, interesting, and fact-filled video, kind of like this one. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've seen the same kind of real estate news that I have. The headlines are filled with, like the real estate market is softening up. The real estate market is heading into a downturn. And a lot of people are saying, is this going to be a replay of 2008 all over again? The mortgage crisis, which caused, the whole economy of the world to come to a screeching halt. And many people, lost their livelihoods and lost their fortunes, in that calamitous period. A lot of folks are getting kind of nervous and antsy that maybe we're going to be seeing a repeat of that all over again. And one thing that seems like kind of interesting to me is so many people who are saying, oh no, it's not going to be like that. You don't have to worry. That's not going to happen again. There's just no way that could possibly ever happen again. And you know who you hear that a lot from? You hear that a lot from realtors, and you hear that a lot from the mortgage banking industry. A lot of mortgage lenders are saying, hey, no need to worry. I am pretty sensitive to that because it seems to me that every time they're saying, oh no, this is not like the last time, it's exactly like the last time, right? So if you're worried that, methinks thou doth protest too much about there not being a collapse coming, that you have to kind of take a step back and wonder, wow, does that really mean the collapse is going to come? So I know a lot of people are wondering about that. So I just wanted to, put my 2 cents into there. And to all those people who are watching me on YouTube, you probably want to know as well, is there any truth to this, supposition that we are going to have a significant market correction here in the next year or so? Well, I want to share with you some information, and then you can make up your own mind whether or not there's going to be a market collapse, because I can tell you that I don't really know. I'm not going to bury the lead. I don't really think so. I don't think there's going to be a market collapse. And here are some of the reasons why I and other people don't really think that's what's in the cards anytime soon. Well, one reason why I think the real estate market is not imminently about to collapse is the decrease in mortgages which are under forbearance. Now, you may remember when COVID came around, the government got the banks to allow people to not make their mortgage payments. And the number of people who are having forborne mortgages has been dropping steadily. Last month in April, there were about 0.94% of all mortgages were in a forbearance program. That number as of May 31st was down to just 0.85% of all mortgages under forbearance. So we're actually seeing people getting caught up with their mortgages rather than having their mortgages get even more delinquent. So that is one sign of a pretty strong home ownership pool that we have here. Another way that the market is totally different in 2022 versus 2008 is the quality of the borrower. Now, we've seen that in those mortgage forbearance numbers. Another way to look at it is like this. The FICO score for the average mortgage holder today is 751. That's a pretty healthy FICO score. In 2010, the average FICO score of a mortgage holder, and this is 2 years after the mortgage crisis started. This is after they put the new, higher mortgage lending standards into place. Back in 2010, the average FICO score was only 699. So we have much better qualified borrowers who are holding today's mortgages than we've had at any point in history. Another very important thing to consider is the amount of equity that people have in their homes today. In fact, today, homeowners enjoy $11 trillion of untapped equity in their homes. In other words, they have a tremendous amount of cushion between where they are right now and actually getting foreclosed on or putting themselves into a situation where they would become what we would call a distressed seller. most homeowners are very, very far away from the point where they actually would be distressed and highly motivated to sell their properties at something of a discount. And when you have so many homeowners who are sitting in a position of strength like this, it is a far cry from the kind of market where people would really be selling their homes in some kind of a panic, driving to a rapid decrease in home prices. In fact, today in the United States, total mortgage debt is only 43% of home values. That's a tremendous ocean of equity that people are standing on today in the United States. Back in 2011, did you know this? 25% of people were underwater on their mortgage. Today, that number is less than 2.5%. And speaking of mortgages, did you know that today there are only about 2.5 million adjustable rate mortgages held in the United States? That's about 8% of all mortgages. Well, back in 2007, right before the crash, 36% or about 13.1 million mortgages were adjustable rate mortgages. And those ARMs, which are held today, they are typically fixed for a period of 7 to 10 years. Now, whether it's 7 years or 10 years or 5 years, at some point, an adjustable rate mortgage will reset because it's an adjustable rate. But right now, today, only about 1.4 million ARMs are facing a near-term reset. Back in 2007, that number was 10 million loans. 10 million loans in 2007 versus just 1.4 million loans today. Not only that, the number of people who are actually delinquent on their mortgages today is at a record low, with less than 3% of mortgages currently delinquent. Now, I hope that all this is going to show you that there actually are a lot of differences between the real estate market of today in 2022 and the real estate market in 2008. So I don't think that the numbers show that we are really going to be heading into a serious crash like in 2008, but there are a lot of people who are saying we will be seeing a decrease in home prices. Now, a lot of people are saying it's not going to be a very sharp decrease in home prices, perhaps somewhere along the lines of 5 or 10% over the next year, 18 months, something like that. But you have to bear in mind that comes on top of significant price increases over the past couple of years, in particular, where prices were up 30 to 40%. So it would not be surprising if we did see something of a clawback in prices, especially as affordability is getting considerably worse with these higher prices and considerably higher mortgage interest rates. Now, let's say that we are looking at a home price correction of 5% or 10% in the next 12 to 18 months. Well, one thing to consider is that would not happen in a vacuum. That would probably happen in a recession. And you've probably seen a lot of things in the news lately about a possible coming recession. Well, recently, Goldman Sachs came out and they said they are seeing about a 30% likelihood of a recession in the next 12 months or so. Well, 30% chance of recession means 70% chance of not recession. Well, Goldman Sachs or whoever, a lot of people are saying that, hey, there's a good chance of a recession coming along. And, a recession also would not be happening in a vacuum. There would be other things going on at that time. And you would see probably a reverse of the current government policy. Right now, the government is trying to, tighten up the money supply to break inflation, right? Because the Fed has two jobs. Number one, keep inflation in control. Number two, keep full employment. Well, we really have full employment right now, but we also have raging inflation. So the Fed is tightening monetary policy to cut inflation. Well, if we actually were tipping into a significant recession, now the Federal Reserve actually has some room to run because remember, interest rates were so low for so long, they really couldn't cut rates much further. But now they're actually building in a cushion, so they will actually have some space to operate to reduce rates in the future to combat a recession. So you must remember that the housing market does not exist all by itself, and there aren't a million other factors which are affecting home prices. Yeah, there are many things out there which could potentially impact home prices, right? We know mortgage interest rates, that's one, right? Inflation, that's one. How about unemployment? That's another. How about what's going on with the stock market? How about what's going on with the bond market? How about what's going on with consumer confidence? There are, of course, many other things which could factor into home prices, things that no one is even thinking about today, like COVID. Well, okay, everyone's thinking about COVID today, but were they thinking about it 2.5 years ago? They weren't thinking about that. all kinds of things could come up. How about earthquake? How about tsunami? How about drought? How about climate change? There are many, many factors which could potentially impact home prices here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area and far beyond. Look, the hard, sad truth is there's no way to know for sure what your house is going to be worth next year or 3 or 5 or 10 years down the road. You can't say that because there's too many variables. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. But I do know this. There are always 2 great times to buy a house. The first time is 20 years ago. The second time is right now. Listen, if you bought your house in 1988 and then the real estate market crashed in 2008 and then you sold in 2009, guess what? You still would have made a ton of money on your house. You would have been immeasurably better off having bought that house in 1988 and selling it in 2009 than continuing to rent for that intervening 20-year period of time. And that is a fact which I think you can take to the bank. All right, well, that's all I got for this one. Listen, if you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you have, you'll probably also enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of my most popular videos here on my YouTube channel. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And please, stay tuned.